Welcome, ladies and gentlemen mathematicians. We are going to work a little bit on our properties of numbers. And there's not a whole lot of them, but they're important to know. And hopefully we can get through this without a whole lot of difficulty for you. The first one that I want to take a look at is called commutative, okay? And I'm going to point out that commutative, it has the word commute right in it. So we're going to talk about moving things around inside our equations. So we have a commutative with addition, for addition. And then we have one for multiplication. And sorry, my handwriting is so bad here. Alright, so for addition, if I have 3 plus 4 plus 2, I can say the same thing as 2 plus 4 plus 3. The fact that I've changed them around, all they did was they moved around within my equation here, and they're only able to do that when we have just addition going on. You can't have like a multiplication in here and then start shuffling things around. Now, we can do it strictly for multiplication, but again, if we would have addition in here in the middle of it, we could not do this. So just be aware that you can't mix and match. So for multiplication, if I have 3 times 7 times 2. I could say the same is 2 times 7 times 3. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same. I mean, this case and this case, they were both reversed. I could also have said 7 times 2 times 3. Alright, so as long as they're moving around within that expression, right? As long as it's moving around and you don't have an addition or subtraction in there for the multiplication, or in the addition you don't have a multiplication division going on, then you're fine for commutative property. Alright, so that is our commutative property. Let's talk about another one here. I'm going to talk about the associative property. And there is, again, one for addition. And one for multiplication. And I'm going to have, let's have 3 plus 5 plus 7. And I'm going to have the 3 plus 5 is what I'm going to add first. And in this case, I'm going to have 3 plus 5 plus 7. Okay, so here I'm going to do this 3 plus 5 first. Here I'm going to do the 5 plus 7 first. They are both going to get me to the same answer. It doesn't really matter which one I add first, as long as I am following, what I'm being told. If I'm not being told, I can go left to right, or I can move things around, use a commutative property so that it's easier for me to add up. So if you were to want to mix the commutative property, you might have the 3 and the 7 and then the 5, because the 3 and the 7 will get you a 10, which most people prefer. So 10 plus 5 would get you 15. But you would have to use the commutative property before you could use the associative property. It's how we're going to add them up. And in this case, multiplication, I'm going to do a generic version ABC, right? A times B times C. And I'm going to have my A and my B is what I'm multiplying first. And here I'm going to have my A, and then I have the B times C is the associative part. Now, if I were to do 3 plus, or 3 times 4 times 6, and I have my 3 and my 4 first, then I could go 3 times 4 times 6. Alright, so that is our associative property. Let me clear this off. We will look at the distributive property, and then I'm going to give you a couple bonuses. Alright, so the distributive property is the only one where we get to mix and match. It's actually called the distributive property of multiplication over division, or over addition. I'm sorry, over addition. Misspoke there. Alright, so our distributive property of multiplication over addition, I'm going to have, here I could have my A times B, and I'm going to go, let's do this. We'll do A times B plus C. Alright, this is going to be the same as if I said AB plus AC, because my A is being distributed both to my B and to my C. So that's how I get this piece. If I want to put it more into a context of with some numbers in there, more than just the generic variables, let's go with 3, and then I have x plus 5. So I'm going to have 3x plus 15, because that's my 3 times 5. So this is the distributive property of multiplication over addition. And as you can see, the big thing that's happening here is I get to multiply my A, or my number outside the paren, with everything that's inside the paren. Now, some people know about FOIL. I'm going to say that FOIL is good in as far as it goes, first inner, outer, last. But I'm going to say that that doesn't work the minute we get a third term in there. So let me just real quickly, I'm going to make one that's kind of a mess, but we'll go ahead and do that anyway. Let's clear this. I'm going to have, let's go 2 plus x. It's going to multiply 3 plus x plus y. Alright, and this is legitimate. I can go ahead and do this. I'm saying I'm multiplying everything in here with everything in here. So let's go ahead and get that started. I'm going to do my 2 times 3 is going to get me 6. 2 times x is going to get me 2x. That's going to be positive. I'm going to have a 2 times y. And again, that's a positive, so it's 2y. And then I'm going to have x times 3. So I'm going to have a plus 3x. And then I'm going to have an x times an x, which is going to be an x squared. And then my x and my y, right? I'm going to have a plus x, y. And there's a couple things I can, well, there's one thing I can combine here. So I've got my 2x and my 3x here. So I'm going to have, let me actually start with the x squared, because that's the highest exponent. So I've got an x squared, right? And I've got my 2 plus 3x, right? My 2x plus 3x is going to get me a 5x. And then I'm going to have my xy, which is the same as a 1xy, right? And then I'm going to have my 2y plus 6. So this is by convention, right? There's nothing wrong with this answer. If I said collect them, you'd probably have to do this piece here, where you would get to the 5x, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with having it in this order. Those are, in fact, all of the pieces that you need in order to solve it, but this is considered our normal convention. We usually start with the lowest letter variable, right? So if you have A, B, and C, you would have an A here, and then you'd have the B in the middle, and then the C towards the end. So here we have our x squared, then we have our x, and then wherever that x shows up, and as soon as you start mixing them, right, so you've got your x, y here, the next thing we're going to look for is the y. And if we had a y squared, it would be here, and then our constant at the end. This is our constant, our 6. We don't have a variable on that. So hopefully that's helpful. I will call it good enough for the moment, and we'll go from there.